Hello everyone and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. Today I'm going to be counting down the top 5 of Little Richard albums. The true architect of rock and roll. An incredible voice, an incredible skillful piano player, but also as a writer, one of the originators of so many rock and roll classics. It's time to take a deeper dive in his work, and I'm going to present you his 5 best albums. And as a matter of fact, at the number 5, I'm already going to cheat a little bit because I'm including 2 records. I cannot choose between 2 albums for the 5th spot. First one on that 5th spot is this one, Little Richard's The Second Coming. I love this record because this is part of Little Richard's comeback and session with Reprise Records. And although he wasn't much of a fan of this record himself, because he thought it was a much messier recording, I think the messiness adds so much to the experience. This one is definitely rougher and more extreme than his actual first comeback album, The Real Thing. Now, and that's the one this record shares place with. Why is it so hard to choose? Well, they are both part of the comeback, but while this is the rough, rowdy, messier one I really love, The Real Thing is the record Little Richard is most proud of, at least in the 70s. He's the one most proud of it, because I believe he even invested some of his own money in The Real Thing, and he was experimenting. I wouldn't even call The Real Thing a full-blown rock and roll album. The tempo is slower, though it still swings, but the tempo is slower, and there are rhythm and blues injections here. There's soul in there, there's funk in there. The Real Thing has this song, the title track, The Real Thing, which is on side 2, and it's this 10-minute epic funk rock song. It's just bizarre to hear Little Richard do those kind of songs, opening with the Freedom Blues, which he wrote, which is a different side of Little Richard than the true rock and roll side that we've heard of before. He ends the record, The Real Thing, with I Saw Her Standing There, a cover of The Beatles, written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. And it's just stunning to hear the architect of rock and roll play one of the songs of, well, the Beatles learned their craft while playing with Little Richard. I mean, that's awesome. At number 5, The Second Coming and The Real Thing. At number 4, The Fabulous Little Richard. This is his 1959 album, and this is the record with which he closed off his epic classic rock and roll era from the 50s. What happened? Little Richard in, I believe, 1958, right after recording these songs, he had a vision. He had a vision of an airplane flying into flames or bursting into flames and crashing. Now, I wonder if that was really a vision or that he just got scared because Buddy Holly, the same happened to him. The thing is, not so long after the vision, he did saw the same type of airplane that he saw in his vision crash. So he believes that the Lord saved him from giving him that vision, and that's when he moved away from rock and roll. He closed his deal with Specialty Records. He stopped touring with rock and roll music, and he changed his entire life in a lot of ways, and musically he became a gospel singer. So this record, it's the last one that rounds the epic 50s up, but yet there is already something interesting and I wouldn't say strange, new to it. This is a cooler, softer side not as sped up and energetic and wild as the other 50s recordings of Little Richard. We even have dubs with backing vocals. And honestly, it all works pretty well. There's this different side, a certain evolution in the sound or change in the sound, and it works pretty well. We got some incredible songs here. Shake a Hand, A Lonesome and Blue, Whole Lot of Shaking. And Little Richard here is, I'm not going to say on fire because of the vision. I'm also not going to say on fire because he is toning down. But a toned down Little Richard still sounds very impressive. He's taking you different directions here. At number 4, The Fabulous Little Richard from 1959. Now, talking about different directions. This may be his most different direction, and a direction that is often overlooked when people talk about Little Richard. When we talk about Little Richard, we talk about rock and roll. So I also only focused on rock and roll songs until I listened to a radio broadcast in 1979 by David Bowie. Bowie was a guest, and he was allowed to pick 10 or 15 songs and introduce them. And Bowie picked a gospel song called He's My Star, but he didn't say who the artist was. And he didn't tell, I believe until after the song, to the audience on the radio. He asked them, who do you think this is? And when I was listening to that radio broadcast, I listened to it on YouTube, you can find it on YouTube, I was just stunned by the beauty of the voice. And obviously, that beauty is Little Richard. This is a reissue of that record. The original title is King of the Gospel Singers. And it is a very special gospel record. I'm not a gospel aficionado. I'm interested in the sound of it. The church-like element is not my thing, so I usually stay away from it. But man, David Bowie pointed me towards He's My Star, and that song alone is a delight, because Little Richard here, you will imagine, I imagine that Little Richard doing gospel, he'd be one of the big voice shouting in the church kind of voices, getting everybody to tap along. And he's not. He's subtle. He's delicate. And there is so much love and emotion in that voice. He shows a complete different capacity as a vocalist on not just He's My Star, on so many songs here. Joy, Joy, Joy. There is a version of There'll Be Peace in the Valley for me on this record that is the most beautiful version that I've heard, and I've heard a lot of them, and I love that song. But Little Richard just has something about him. Also, he's got a little help in here. I believe it's written on the cover. No, it's not written on the cover. A lot of the songs were actually produced by Quincy Jones. So you got two geniuses at work here. Seriously, do not underestimate Little Richard's gospel period, because he had something beautiful there. At number 3, King of the Gospel Singers. Number 2, Little Richards, the self-titled record that he made in 1958. In the UK released as Volume 2. This was a collection of singles and B-sides and some songs that he recorded specifically for this album. So what are you gonna hear? You're gonna hear Little Richard in his 50s, full-blown, brilliant glory. It is just astonishing, the power, the energy, the true roots of rock and roll, with songs like Good Golly, Miss Molly, and he's going insane on the piano. This version of Lucille, I think, this recording of Lucille, the screaming of the vocals, I mean, it's not gonna get a lot better than that recording-wise. There are some of these recordings that just, that moment in time, that artist on that moment in time, the recording techniques, the energy, the wildness, something is so specific about that moment in time, but then again, it's so unspecific that it's this epic, undefinable recording that always works. It's not stuck in time. This record is just brilliant. Heebie-jeebies. So many great songs. At number 2, Little Richard. And at number 1, I wanted to say, of course, although it's definitely a tie between Little Richard and Here's Little Richard, but at number 1, Here's Little Richard. His first record, the first record Specialty made. I mean, what are you gonna get when you put this on? The same wild, crazy energy that I just described with Little Richard, but now you got songs like Tutti Frutti, True Fun Mama, Can't Believe You Wanna Leave, Ready Teddy, Long Tall Sally, Rip It Up, Jenny Jenny. She's Got It, and some more. I mean, so much wild energy. When you put this on, you are listening to the roots, the essence of rock and roll. It's the wildest, it's the craziest, and it's the most brilliant. Try and write so many great songs Little Richard did. It's unbelievable. So this is my top 5. I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.